Hey guys, Blue OJ Leader here. With Thomas and Friends being around since 1984, there's bound to be lots of episodes, plenty of which that don't get talked about. So I thought it might be fun to give my opinion on every single Thomas and Friends episode. Yes, every single one. At least from the classic series. Now that might seem impossible considering that would mean I'd have to go through nearly 600 episodes of Thomas and Friends. Well, first of all, that's why I'm only talking about the classic series for now. Second of all, to make sure this video doesn't go on for hours, I'm gonna go through the episodes relatively quickly, probably 1 to 2 sentences each. And last of all, this is all just my opinion, so feel free to disagree. Anyways, starting with Season 1, here is my opinion on every classic Thomas and Friends episode. It's a very good first episode. It's solid, it's kinda funny, it's a good part too. It's charming and iconic, but honestly, this episode was so overplayed on DVDs to the point where I kind of stopped caring about it. It's good, and I like the music. Good, but overshadowed by The Adventure Begins. It's pretty good. It's very good. It's good. It's the most basic Thomas episode, but it's not as bad as some people say. It's pretty funny. I quite like this episode. It's good, but it has a similar issue to Thomas's train. It's good. It's alright. I like it, but I have some issues with this episode and I think it's overrated. I actually really like this episode. Fantastic. The visuals and music are amazing. I hold a lot of nostalgia for this episode and I still consider it a favorite. I quite like this episode. It's good. Cool crash. It's pretty good. It's good. Aside from having a more white Christmas setup, I don't know why they couldn't have just adapted Mrs. Kindly's Christmas instead. And my overall opinion on Season 1 is pretty good. There's nothing I really dislike about this season. It's true classic Thomas and a near perfect first season. Now Season 2. I like it. I think it's pretty funny. It's good. It's good. I really like this episode. I've kind of come around to Thomas and Trevor. The pacing is still weird and not a lot happens, but I don't hate this episode as much as I used to. It's pretty good. It's an amazing episode, plus Ringo Starr's line is priceless. It's very great. It's good. Weird we didn't get Percy's promise before it, but still a good episode. It's good. Good cliffhanger episode. Very epic chase, but I do think we needed a proper part 4. Similar issues with Thomas and Trevor. It's very good. It's also very good. Cool crash. It's pretty good. It's good, but I do think we needed Bull Eyes. I think it's pretty funny. It's good and the ending is priceless. My personal favorite episode. I love Edward's exploit. Edward is at his best and it's an example of a near perfect episode. It's fun and spooky. It's pretty good. Better than the last Christmas special, but not by much. And my overall opinion on Season 2 is my favorite season of Thomas and Friends. The episodes in this season were just amazing for the most part. It really felt like an improvement from Season 1 and it will be hard to top. Now Season 3. I like the additions they made to the story. Like I said before, it should have come before Percy takes a plunge, but it's still very good. It's decent. It's good. I quite like this episode. I do not care for this episode. I don't like it as much as I used to, but it's still fine. It's good, but a little overrated. This is my comfort episode. I love Henry's Forest. It's decent. This episode should have ended 30 seconds sooner than it actually did. Cool nighttime scenes. It's good. It's good. Fun tightroping scene. I do not care for this episode. It's good. I kind of like this one. I do not care for this episode. Not the best adaptation, but it's okay overall. I love this episode. It's pretty good. It's good. It's pretty good. Not a fan. Thomas and Percy's Christmas adventure is decent, but Thomas and Percy's mountain adventure is pretty funky. And my overall opinion on Season 3 is, good. I mean, I know people like this season, but a good chunk of the episodes aren't very standout-ish, and the writing could be very choppy. I've said before that this is my least favorite classic season, but after revisiting this season, I don't think it is anymore. But I still don't like Season 3 that much, and I don't think my biases will ever change. Sorry. Now Season 4. I really like this episode. The recap is annoying, but it's a good part too. Fun crash and a good story. I quite like this episode. It's a good Skarloey episode. I don't know why they had the Skarloey Railway introduced in the last episode just to do it again in this episode, but the story is pretty solid. It's pretty good. The crash is cool. It's good. It's good. I quite like this episode. And I really like this one too. It's very funny. This one is just good though. I really like this episode. It's a love it or hate it episode, and I think I'm on the hate side. It's good. It's good. I like this one a lot. It's good. Yeah, this one's really good. It's pretty good. It's pretty grand. And so is this one. Cool crash, but a pretty standard story. Not a fan. Yeah, not a fan. And my overall opinion on Season 4 is pretty good, if a little overrated. I know this is another season people tend to really like, and I do think it's much better than Season 3. But there weren't a ton of episodes that felt like obvious favorites. It's still a good season though, and I'd say it's as good if not better than Season 1. Now Season 5. I really like this episode. It's good. Yeah, I like this episode. I love this one. It's really funny. It's decent. The story is too all over the place. It's good. It's not a fan. Underrated episode. I love Put Upon Percy. I really like this epic episode. It's great and spooky. It's good. It's dark, but in a good way. I kind of like and don't like this episode, but mostly like. It's pretty good. It's nice. It's good. It's good. Not a fan. It's really funny. Just as good, if not better, than Lady Hat's Birthday Party. Simple in some ways, but still pretty good. I do not care for this episode. I do care for this episode, though. Quite a lot, in fact. It's great and spooky. I was terrified by this episode as a kid, and now I like this episode. It's the best winter episode so far, but is that really saying much? And my overall opinion on Season 5 is... there is a reason that this is the overall fan favorite season. I do think people tend to overlook some obvious duds of episodes, but I still consider it my second favorite season behind 2. Now Season 6. It's really good. It's good. I quite like this episode. It's good. It's pretty good. I quite like this episode. Great episode. But I like part 2 a lot more. I actually kind of like this episode. It's good. It's good. I actually really like this episode. Not a fan. Yeah, not a fan. It's pretty good. It's good, I think. The crash was easily the best part of this episode. Second verse, same as the first. I think it's kind of funny. This episode is really nice. This episode is also really good. I really like this episode, and it's very funny. It's good. It's good. Not a fan. I actually kind of like this episode, and I wish other Railway series stories were adapted for the narrow gauge engines like this. And my overall opinion on Season 6 is my least favorite classic season. Yep, I'm going back on my previous statements. There are a lot of hidden gems in this season, but the flaws are just too apparent with this season, particularly the visuals, US narration, and the weaker stories. Notice how there were a lot of it's goods in this one. It's still a solid season, don't get me wrong. It's just the worst classic season. And finally, Season 7. It's crazy to think Emily came from this episode, and it's a pretty good one. I quite like this episode. It's pretty good. I do not like how Skarloey is used in this episode. I think the concept is okay, but Skarloey was just not the right choice. It's not a fan. It's good. I actually kind of like this episode. It's pretty good. It's solid. It's decent. It's good. The roller coaster stuff was kind of fun, but the rest was just okay. It's good. I really like this episode. I like this episode. It's pretty good. It's solid. I sort of like this episode. I really like this episode. I think it's decent. I love the Sir Topham Hatt stuff, and the rest is good too. I actually kind of like this episode. Yeah, I like this episode. It's surprisingly good. I wish this episode was more accessible. Rusty is a real hero in this episode. I like this episode, and it's a really good farewell to the classic series. And my overall opinion on Season 7 is right above Season 3. There were some stinkers in this season, but the good episodes definitely make up for it. This season improves on the issues from Season 7 and is pretty underrated. I honestly like this season as much as seasons 1 and 4. So, sue me, I guess. And that is my opinion on every Classic Thomas and Friends episode. Just kidding. We have to talk about Jack and the Pat. Jack and the Pat was a planned spin-off for Thomas and Friends that was filmed alongside season 7, but it was canceled by Hit Entertainment and only 13 of the 26 episodes were completed. A couple years after it was canceled, however, the 13 episodes were released on DVD and we got to see what Jack and the Pat could have been. So, let's talk about these episodes, shall we? It's a good episode. This one's also good. I think this one is funny. It's fine, I guess. This one is solid. This one's also solid. It's a great retelling of The Tortoise and the Hare. I like how Max and Monty got scared by Thomas. It's good. I kind of like this episode. It's fine, I guess. This one is pretty funny. It's a solid episode. And my overall opinion on Jack and the Pat is good. I think the spin-off show would have been pretty cool if it actually came out. I do think it could have used a little less Thomas and Percy, and not every episode was amazing, but I think it could have rivaled other Classic Thomas seasons if it actually came out. But for now, it's going below season 6, but then again, that's only because this series was unfinished. And that was my opinion on every Classic Thomas and Friends episode. Man, what a great run of episodes. I love the Classic series and always will. And while my opinions on some of the seasons and episodes are admittedly weird, I still think Classic Thomas is some of the best children's entertainment you can find out there. With one era of the show down, it's time to move on to the next era of the show. Or should I say, the new era of the show. Hey guys, Blue OJ Leader here. After talking about my opinion on every Classic Thomas and Friends episode, now it is time to talk about my opinion on every new series episode. The Classic series was a very good run of 7 seasons of fantastic episodes, but when Hit Entertainment bought the rights to the show, the quality took a step down. That doesn't mean the new series is all bad, but be prepared for some negativity. Like last time, I'll be going through these episodes very quickly so that way this video doesn't take too long, and of course, this is all just my opinion, so feel free to disagree. Anyways, starting with Season 8, here is my opinion on every new series Thomas and Friends episode. Not an amazing way to start the new series. It's alright, I kinda like it. This one's dumb. It's whatever. I actually like this episode. I kinda like it. This one is bad. This one is fine. It's decent. It's alright. It's alright. I actually don't like this episode. It goes against the ideas of Thomas, Percy, and the Squeak, and it's not very entertaining. This episode, on the other hand, I do really like. Edward and Spencer are used great here, and it's a good retelling of The Tortoise and the Hare. One of the best new series Gordon episodes. It's fine. It's whatever. It's decent. It's decent. I don't like this one. I do like this one. It's good-ish. I kind of like it. Goofy, but okay. This one's lame. This one's dumb, but the effects are cool. And my overall opinion on Season 8 is, okay. I mean, there were some pretty good episodes in this batch, but the lows were still really low, and I can't say I entirely like this season as much as even the worst classic seasons. Now Season 9. It's alright, this one's dumb. It's alright, Mighty Matt is a cool character and I really like this episode. It's not as good as some say. Great episode here, I love Respect for Gordon. It's alright, it's whatever. This one's dumb. It's whatever. I actually kinda like this episode. Kinda silly, but okay. Just because Thomas isn't an idiot in this episode doesn't mean it's good. Brodace is cool, but the episode is just fine. I kinda like it. It's meh. This episode is bad. This episode is good. This episode is okay. I actually really like this episode. It's alright. This episode is awful, but this made me laugh.
Whee! Puff Scarloey as he raced down the hill.
It's whatever. It's whatever. It's whatever. Kind of fun, but not great. And my overall opinion on Season 9 is worse than Season 8. The highs were higher than those in Season 8, but the lows were much lower. Plus, there were a lot more boring and whatever episodes this time around. Now Season 10. It's kind of dumb. I actually kind of like this episode. It's whatever. It's not good. It's kind of funny, but not great. This one's dumb. This one's dumb. This one's whatever. Another great Gordon episode. I love It's Good to Be Gordon. This episode is stupid. Reddy is a neat character, but his first episode is not great. It's kinda cute. This one's dumb, but this scene is really cool. It's whatever. I actually kinda like this episode. This episode is dumb. Edward Strikes Out is one of the worst Thomas and Friends episodes of all time, and it is simply because of how out of character Edward is. It is an unbearable sit-through, and the fact that Rocky was introduced here, making it harder to ignore, is just the icing on this cake. Terrible episode. This one's fine. It's dumb. It's really dumb. It's kinda good. It's whatever. It's kinda good. It's okay. It's okay. This one is dumb. It's actually kind of good. It's fun to see James jealous of Edward for a change. Neat idea, but not good execution. And my overall opinion on Season 10 is bad. This season was quantity over quality. A couple of the episodes were good, but there were way too many bad episodes to say that this season was at the very least decent. Now Season 11. It's a neat episode. It's decent. It's a neat episode. Not a fan. This episode is surprisingly good. It's okay. There have been better hit era Gordon stories. This one's dumb. This one's dumb. This one's also dumb, although this line made me laugh.
The light bulb will break easily. You must go slowly and carefully, Sir Topham had added. So, Thomas puffed quickly away to the warehouse.
This one's really dumb. This one's... no, still dumb. This one's dumbly whatever. This episode honestly isn't that bad. It's funny seeing Thomas deal with an engine that's just as insufferable as him. I don't like this episode. It's literally the most generic hide-and-seek cross Boy Who Cried Wolf story ever, but with talking trains. No one ever seems to talk about this episode, when honestly, it's one of the dumbest and worst episodes in the entire show. It's whatever. It's okay. It's okay. It's whatever. It's whatever. This one's dumb. This one's actually kind of fun. It's okay. It's okay. I kind of like this episode. It's okay. And my overall opinion on Season 11 is... about the same as Season 10. There were a lot of this one's dumbs in there, but we also got some pretty good episodes in this too. Well, let's just hope that Season 12 brings the entire model series to a solid end. Not great. This one is bad. Cool that Rosie got a starring role, but it's still a lame episode. It's kinda neat. This one sucks. Hank is cool, but the episode is only okay. This one's dumb. I do not care for this episode. It's okay. It's whatever. It's whatever. I like this one. This one is bad. Not great. It's okay, though it's easily the weakest hit era Gordon story. Neat idea, but dumb story. It's whatever. It's kinda neat. This episode is terrible. Awful end to the Model Star Lowy Railway episodes. It's okay. A decent enough way to end the model series. And my overall opinion on Season 12 is... the worst model season. I'm sorry. It probably would have been around the same level as Seasons 10 and 11, but with the dated animation and cheap sets, this is easily the weakest of not only the new series, but the entire model series as a whole. So, sue me, I guess. And that is my opinion on every new series episode. I gotta say, I did not completely enjoy revisiting the new series. While I am nostalgic for these seasons, even as a kid, I remember liking the classic episodes more than this era. It sucks because there was a sizable number of good episodes from this era. It's a shame there was just so much trash around it. Now that we've covered the new series, it's time to move on to the Nitrogen era, or more commonly known as the Sharon Miller era. And oh boy, I am not excited to watch these episodes again. Hey guys, Blue OJ Leader here. After talking about my opinion on every classic Thomas and Friends episode, and my opinion on every new series episode, now it is time to talk about my opinion on every episode from the Nitrogen era, or more commonly known as the Sharon Miller era. This era of the show is infamous for how bad it was. Every episode was practically the same. Believe me, I made sure that was true, and I can confirm, while there was a couple of exceptions, all of these episodes play out basically the same way. This is going to suck. I would try to go through the episodes pretty quickly like the last videos, but honestly, I don't think I'm gonna have to try this time. But anyways, this is all just my opinion, so feel free to disagree, even if you probably won't in this case. Anyway, starting with Season 13, here is my opinion on every Nitrogen-era Thomas and Friends episode. It's a fine first CGI episode. This one is pretty dumb. It's kinda cute. This episode is so silly it's hilarious. Sir Topham Hatt and Mr. Bubbles were funny in this, but the episode is still really dumb. This one is kinda neat. I'm a little nostalgic for this episode, but it's honestly kind of mid. Also, random side tangent, but in a strange case of the Mandela effect, I remembered incorrectly that Stanley was the co-lead of this episode instead of it actually being Charlie, who makes his unceremonious debut in this episode. Weird, isn't it? In fact, I completely forgot Charlie was even a character. It wasn't even until I started getting back into Thomas and Friends a few years ago did I realize he made his debut in this era. Wow, I really suppressed the memory of Charlie, didn't I? Maybe it was for the best. Anyway, moving on. This one's wholesome. This one is pretty silly. This one is decent, I guess. It's a good idea, but the episode could have been better. This one is okay, maybe? I don't know. This one's dumb. This one's really dumb, but I like Spencer's troll mustache. It's pretty epic. This one is not good. This episode should have come later in the show, but it's kinda wholesome. I have nostalgia for this episode, but it's only just okay. Who knew the engines cared so much about birds? This one's whatever. I mean, it's decent for this era. The opening was the best part, the rest is just okay. And my overall opinion on Season 13 is not good. Every episode is boring, dumb, super slow, and filled with poorly written dialogue. It's definitely worse than every model season, and that includes Season 12. But I will say, I did like some ideas for the episode, and the slower pace did aid one or two episodes, so maybe Season 14 will be better. Anyway, moving on. This one's dumb. This one is just Gordon's Night Train, but 10 times sillier. This one is really dumb. This one's also dumb, but I like the shot of the funnel in the car. I like the message of old engines asking for young engines' help, but it's still a dumb episode. The awful dialogue ruins this one. Diesel is pretty sympathetic in this episode. Not amazing, but alright for this era. This one sucks, but the scenes of the corpse hitting the people were pretty funny. I liked Victor in this one. Also, I'm noticing a pattern that the episodes that deal with insecurities tend to be the better ones. This one is not good. This one's also not good. I'm a bit nostalgic for this one, but it's not great. This one's very predictable and not good. Despite having the greatest name for an episode, this one's dumb. Edward almost dies the episode. This one's dumb. This one's also dumb. What a surprise. This episode is really dumb, but I like Gordon in the story. Why would Dowager Hat want to go to Misty Island? This one's whatever. For an episode with the logging logos as the leads, it's not good, but it could have been a lot worse. Henry is particularly dumb in this one, but it kinda works. And my overall opinion on Season 14 is bad. None of the problems with Season 13 have been fixed, and while once again, there were some episodes I liked, most of them were just as bad, if not worse than those from Season 13. Obviously worse than the previous season. Moving on to Season 15. It's just whatever. This one's dumb. The only thing of note in this three-parter is this scene.
Emily had heard the logging locals tweeting and twittering too. She wanted to tweet and Twitter like them.
No, don't do it, Emily. Anyway, this one's pretty goofy. This one is pretty dumb. I mean, it's the best of the Nitrogen era, but is that really saying much? This one is bad. This one starts wholesome, but gets worse over time. Honestly, I like the message about being able to say no to your friends, but the episode is still dumb. This one is honestly not that bad. This one, on the other hand, is dumb. This one is whatever. This one is actually kinda good for this era. There are some funny scenes in this episode, but the story is just whatever. This one is pretty dumb. I kinda like this episode, but I also kinda hate it. This one is bad. Wanty Whistle is really dumb, but honestly, it's nothing out of the ordinary for this era. It's technically one of the worst episodes, but it's not the worst. It's just whatever. It starts out interesting, but becomes stupid as it goes on. Flynn is so incompetent. This is in contention for the worst episode in the show. And my overall opinion on Season 15 is worse than Season 14, if only by a bit. The highs in this season were higher than others, but the lows, on the other hand, were some of the lowest in the entire series. And it's not like the highs were that good. Well, only one season left. Season 16. This one is bad. I like Den and Dart, but this episode is just boring. This one starts fun, but becomes dumb. This one is dumb. This one is also dumb. I honestly kinda like this episode. Not amazing, but good for this era. This one is fine, I guess. It's a unique idea, but it could have been executed better. Second verse, same as the first. I like Percy and Diesel's interactions, but the story is very silly. It's too predictable. I mean, it's kinda cute. This one's dumb. This one's also dumb. This one's just whatever. But this one is dumb. I didn't realize that Stadford was introduced in this season. He has a cool design, but this is a very nothing episode. This one could have been better. I like a lot of this episode, but I don't think it's amazing. It could have been better. This one is dumb and a pretty whatever farewell to this era. The previous episode should have been the last one. And my overall opinion on Season 16 is better than the other seasons? I don't know. All of these seasons are basically the same. I did kind of like more episodes in this season than the previous ones, but saying this is the best of the Nitrogen era really isn't saying much. All of these seasons are awful and not worth watching at all. If you disagree, sue me, I guess. And that is my opinion on every Nitrogen era episode, and oh my god, this was rough. The new series was also kinda bad, but it didn't use the same formula for every episode, and there were a lot of surprisingly good ones in the bunch, but man, aside from a few of these episodes, none of them were good. Not a ton of them were absolutely insulting, but man, I hope I never have to watch some of these episodes again. This was so tedious. Anyway, now that the Nitrogen era is done, it's time to move on to the Brenner era. And I gotta say, I am very excited to revisit these seasons again. Hey guys, Blue OJ Leader here. Well, I've given my opinion on every Thomas and Friends episode from 3 different eras now. So now it is time to talk about the era I have been looking forward to revisiting the most, the Brenner era. In 2012, Mattel bought Hidden Entertainment and they subsequently revamped Thomas and Friends. Gone was Sharon Miller as the head writer, and here came Andrew Brenner. He and his team of writers helped bring new life to this, at the time, very boring and repetitive show. The Brenner era was truly a new golden age for Thomas and Friends. But how do these seasons and episodes hold up in retrospect? Well, let's find out, shall we? Like always, I'll be going through these episodes quickly so that this video doesn't take too long, and of course, this is all just my opinion, so feel free to disagree. Anyways, starting with Season 17, here is my opinion on every Brenner era Thomas and Friends episode. It's a decent start to the Brenner era. It's alright. Such a classic feeling episode. I love Wayward Winston. This one's good too. It's fine. This one's good. Yeah, this one is amazing. And this one is really sweet. It's decent. This episode actually made me feel bad for Charlie. So, that's something, I guess. I like Paxton a lot in this episode. It's nice to see Duck as the lead again, and it's a pretty good episode. It's fine. This one's pretty good. I really like this episode. This one is just okay, though. I actually quite like this episode. This one's pretty cute. It's basically a Christmas-themed version of Day of the Diesels. I think it works well, and it's great to see Diesel 10 again. It's pretty good. This one's fine. This one's solid. It's good. It's pretty standard. It's good. It's a really good, classic-feeling episode. And my overall opinion on Season 17 is pretty solid. This season was pretty consistent with its stories. There weren't a lot of true standouts, but at the same time, there weren't really any outrageously bad episodes either. You can tell the new writing team was trying to use every character to see what worked and what didn't. Overall, a solid season, but not quite as good as the classic seasons. Now Season 18. It's pretty good. It's really great. It's dumb, but I like Emily in this episode. This one's solid. This one's silly, but I like Henrietta in this episode. This one's great. This one's okay. I like the slip coaches, but the episode is just fine. It's really great. It's also really good. It's a great Duncan episode. It's good. It's a very nice episode. It's alright. It's also alright. It's very good and a cool idea. It's very sweet. It's a grand Christmas episode. It's pretty good. It's cute, I guess. It's honestly pretty solid. It's also pretty solid. I'm not sure why the Earl would want a dinosaur park, but the episode is alright. I like that Samson is pretty dumb and arrogant, but the story is pretty boring. And this one is just stupid. I kinda like this one, but man, this 4-parter could have been so much better. And my overall opinion on Season 18 is pretty good, honestly. I was surprised with how many good episodes there were in this season. The low points were lower in this season compared to the last one, but the high points were much higher. Definitely better than Season 17 at the very least. Moving on to Season 19. It's a neat idea. A little silly, but not bad at all. It's good, in fact. This one's also good. Yeah, this one kinda sucks. It's decent. It's pretty good. It's solid. I quite like this episode. It's pretty good. It should have been about Porter. Den and Dart is the episode that made me like Den and Dart. It's a sweet episode. It's good. I like that Mr. Percival gets some focus, but the episode is just fine. It's solid. It's pretty good. I don't really like Philip, but I like the idea for this episode. Philip's save was cool, but it didn't make me like him anymore. This is the first time Thomas and Friends has ever had a proper 2-parter episode with the same name. I like both parts equally, and I think it's a fun retelling of A Christmas Carol. It's really good. This episode sucks. A lot. This one's solid. It's whatever. It's really good. It's pretty good. And my overall opinion on Season 19 is good. Yeah, it's good. But it's not without faults. This season has the experimentation of Season 17 with the quality of Season 18. The highs were ones that I didn't expect, but the lows were shockingly low. It's better than Season 17, but I don't think it's better than Season 18. Sorry. Now Season 20. I like Sydney, so I like this episode. For a Philip episode, it could have been worse. This one is amazing. I think it would have benefited from Duck in Thomas's role, but the episode is still good. Bradford is awesome. I love this episode. This one's not great. I love Daisy and Ryan as a pair. Great episode. It's a solid James episode. It's pretty good. It's solid. It's cool to see Percy and Harold paired up again, though the episode is just good. It's a sweet episode. This is such an inspired idea for an episode. I love it. It's cool that we got a pack episode, and it's solid. This episode actually made me care for Connor. I really love this episode. It's good. I can't believe we got 3 new proper adaptations of Railway series stories in 2017. That is awesome. And Tit for Tat is an amazing episode. Mike's Whistle is pretty good too. Useful Railway is also very good, and the crash was the best part. It's a fun idea and a great episode. This one is very dumb. It's okay. It's also okay. Hugo in general is just okay. This one's good. It's a really fun episode. It's cool to see Glenn again. It's a very fun episode. And my overall opinion on Season 20 is the best Brenner season to no one's surprise. I do think there were some bad episodes that many don't seem to talk about, but the stuff this season did right, it did right. It's no wonder why this season of Thomas and Friends is held in such high regard. And finally, Season 21. This was the first time I actually cared for CGI Diesel. It's a shame this episode came after the last one, but it's still good. This one's pretty funny. I like Harvey's insecurities, but the episode could have been better. I honestly kinda like this episode. I really like this episode. I think it's fine. This one's also fine. It was kinda cool to see Bid Mickey with a face, but the episode was just fine. I quite liked this episode, even if Bulgy's role at the end was very sudden. It's alright. Fun crash and pretty good episode. A Shed for Edward is a pretty lame episode with an ending I have very mixed feelings on. The episode is just Edward trying to find somewhere to sleep, and I get why he doesn't want to sleep with Philip. Also, it makes no sense that Philip sleeps at Wellsworth. This episode should have been about Rosie or Boko if they wanted to make fans happy. But that's not the part people like to talk about. It's the ending that has fans divided. Edward is my favorite Thomas character. Of course I don't like seeing him leave Tidmouth Sheds, aka the main cast. But in a way, I understand why they wanted to have him be a side character. Edward isn't a character that needs a lot of episodes about him like Percy or James. He's a character that works well as a secondary character, and most writers can't make him a main character for a story without his actions seeming out of character. Look at episodes like Edward Strikes Out, Steady Eddie, Charlie and Eddie, etc. And to be fair, it's not like him being a side character means he won't stop appearing in the show. Right? I can see why Edward would be written off of the main cast. The problem comes from how they did it. I get why Edward would want to leave to mentor a young agent like Philip. That's not the issue. The issue is that it's Philip, and they don't even do anything with this pairing. Why? What was the point of pairing them in the first place? And also, I can't stand the fact that no one seems to care that Edward is leaving the Sheds. In fact, they start wondering immediately who's going to join the Sheds next. You guys are supposed to be his friends, and you don't even seem that sad? How insensitive. It also doesn't help that many people see this as the finale of the Brenner era. And to be fair, it technically is on Amazon, but not the official list. And honestly, this is a terrible end to the Brenner era. So yeah, I get why people don't like this episode, but at the same time, I get why some people actually kinda liked it. I personally am leaning more towards hate in it, but hate is a strong word. I just kinda disliked it. That's all. It's probably in my top 5 worst Brenner era episodes, but I don't know if it's the worst. Anyways, cool idea. I also like the title Bid Freeze. Tugs fans will get the reference. I don't like how Donald and Douglas are used, but I think the idea was cool. I love seeing Terrence again, and the episode is pretty good. It's a nice Christmas episode about Daisy of all characters. Not only a fine finale to Gordon and Spencer's rivalry, but a fine finale to the Brenner era if you go by the Thomas Wiki list. And my overall opinion on Season 21 is good. It's good. For what this season had to be, I think the team did the best they could. We got several good episodes, a couple bad episodes, but ultimately, if Season 20 wasn't going to be the end of the show, I think this is a fine season to end this wonderful era of Thomas and Friends. But I don't think it's better than Season 18 or 20, so sue me, I guess. And that is my opinion on every Brenner era Thomas and Friends episode. I have to say, it was a lot of fun revisiting these seasons. It's crazy to think that Thomas and Friends was this consistently good. You'll notice I repeated myself a lot in this video, just like how I did in the Nitrogen era video. But while repetition was a problem in the Nitrogen era, it wasn't in the Brenner era. Man, seasons 17 through 21 were great, and I think we didn't appreciate them enough at the time. Some of the stuff was legit better than some things in the classic series, and that is high praise. Season 20 was the peak of modern Thomas, and it could have been the last season of the show. Season 21 also had a sense of finality to it, and it could have also been the finale to Thomas and Friends. But that's not what happened, because during 2017, we received terrible news. Big change was on the horizon. Season 21 was no longer the next step for the Brenner era. It was now its last. Starting in 2018, a new era of Thomas and Friends would begin. And what it was called was Bid World Bid Adventures. Bid World Bid Adventures was a short but awful time to be a Thomas fan. Hatred everywhere, arguments everywhere, baffling choices were aplenty in the show. And was it all worth it? Well, we'll find out soon enough, won't we? Join me next time, folks. The end is in sight. Hey guys, Blue OJ Leader here. Well, it's finally time, folks. I've given my opinion on every episode from every era of Thomas and Friends, except for one. And this era is the one that I have been looking forward to revisiting the least. And that era is Bid World Bid Adventures. Bid World Bid Adventures was a soft reboot for Thomas and Friends that had the goal of making Thomas more accessible for the new generation in other countries. But it didn't work. And this era of the show has not been looked back on fondly. I hated this era when it was coming out. It was painful to watch these episodes, and I have not looked back on these 3 seasons of Thomas and Friends for a long time. A part of me hopes that the episodes will be better than I remember, but something tells me they won't. But there's only one way to find out, isn't there? I won't go as fast as I usually do, mainly because I have so much to say about some of these episodes, and also because there's only 3 seasons. And of course, this is all just my opinion, so feel free to disagree. Anyways, starting with season 22, here's my opinion on every Bid World Bid Adventures Thomas and Friends episode. Not the best introduction to Bwubba if you ask me. Gordon's freakout is kind of funny, but the message is a little mishandled. The concept is fine and I like Rebecca alright, but this episode was very hard to sit through. This one's whatever. This one almost works. I like Bollywood and movies, so I weirdly liked this episode. This one sucks. It's decent. This one's okay. It's surprisingly solid for this era. It's alright. It's cool to see Merlin again, but the episode was just whatever. This one sucks. This one's kinda dumb. It's cool to see Bradford and Cyril again, but the story is pretty basic. This one's fine. This one's alright. Isola's cool, but the story isn't. It's actually kinda nice. It's basically just Thomas Percy and the dragon, but without Percy and the rest of the story being dragged out for 7 minutes. This one kinda sucks. This one also kinda sucks. This one is actually pretty solid. Yep, it's a Bwubba episode. This one's actually really nice, and this one is very good for this era. And my opinion on season 22 is alright objectively. Like, it's about the same as the new series quality-wise, but personally, this season was very hard to watch. All the dream sequences, bouncing, and the fast-paced stories just don't work for Thomas and Friends. I did like more episodes than I expected, but even the episodes I liked aren't episodes I want to re-watch because of all the stupid changes they made to this season. Anyways, moving on to season 23. This one is pretty neat. It's fine. It's whatever. This episode is meh. It's a heart-filled story. It's fine. This one is dumb. What an inspired name for a boring episode. It's fine. The opening is dumb. The rest is whatever. This one sucks. This one is mid. It's alright. It's actually really sweet. It's cool we're getting pack episodes, but this one is just okay. It's boring. Lorenzo turns on Beppe out of nowhere within like 2 seconds of the episode. So, like, pretty accurate to showbiz, but not a great episode. It's alright. This one sucks. This one could have been cool, but it's just fine. I appreciate what they were going for, but there are just too many stupid moments in this special. The first part of Dids and Discoveries is very boring, and it's just kind of a typical long Bwubba episode. I like how the pad is involved and the fact that there's more story this time, but it's still not great. And my opinion on season 23 is about the same as 22, if not worse. There was a lot of dumb stuff in this season, stuff that was way worse than the stuff in season 22. But they did improve some things, so it's not all bad. I don't know. It's kind of a one step forward, another step back kind of thing. Whatever. There's only one season left to talk about, and that season is season 24. This one's dumb. They made a dog pee on James. It's okay. It's pretty fun, but not much of a story. It's whatever. cool Emily got the number 12, but the story is pretty messy. It's like Best Dressed Engine, but with Shankar. That makes it pretty good. I like the references at the beginning, the rest is whatever. This one's dumb. It's fine. Ace worked better as a one-off, they shouldn't have brought him back. It's nice, I guess. I don't like Cleo, so I don't like this episode. I like Sunny, so I like this episode. It's meh. This one's dumb. This episode actually made me like Yanbao as a character. I wish the episode came earlier, but it's still solid. The ending was actually kinda nice. Why did they make an introduction episode for Cleo after Cleo's first snow? This one's whatever. No. Honestly, I've come to appreciate this special more over time. It's not amazing or anything, but it does a lot right, and it's a very nice farewell to not only the Bwaba era, but Thomas and Friends as a whole. Both parts of these specials suck. They are absolutely stupid and cartoony. Hardly anything works about them. They're terrible. Sunny was the only good part of the special. These are my least favorite episodes of Thomas and Friends, if you even count them as such. And my overall opinion on Season 22 is the best Bwaba season, I guess. I kind of liked more episodes this time around, but none of them were really as memorable or even much better than what we got in the other seasons. Honestly, my ranking of these 3 Bwaba seasons doesn't even matter that much. They're all equally not good and the lowest points of the entire show. If you disagree with me, then sue me, I guess. And that is my opinion on every Bwaba Thomas and Friends episode. Like I said before, I don't think these seasons are objectively better than the Nitrogen era and some of the seasons of the new series, but I just can't stand watching these episodes. I said this back in 2021 when All Engines Go was coming out, and I'll say it again because I think it fits for Bwaba too. Even if Bwaba ended up being okay, even if kids started to like it, even if merchandise quality started to go up, even if sales started to go up, even if this somehow saved Thomas and Friends from being over for good, would it be worth it? Would it be worth it knowing that this Teen Titans Go Cross Chuggington wannabe is the state of the show now, and what people will see as Thomas and Friends for the next couple of years? No. Just no. Because this isn't Thomas and Friends. It never will be Thomas to me. Yes, All Engines Go is absolutely not Thomas and Friends. Also, I'm not going to do a video about All Engines Go and you can't make me, but because it's so different, it's easier to ignore All Engines Go and write it off as its own thing. You can't do that with Bwaba, because it's trying too hard to be both Thomas and Friends and a baby show. They needed to pick one, commit to the bid, and they did, eventually. Mattel stopped Bwaba after 3 seasons, and I think it was for the best. Bwaba is my least favorite era of Thomas and Friends. It's not the worst, but it's the one that I personally cannot stand the most, and I know I am not alone in that sentiment. And with that, I have finally given my opinion on every Thomas and Friends episode. What a journey this has been. The only thing left to do now is to rank all 24 seasons plus the Jack in the Pack miniseries. So let's get into it. First up, we got the Bwaba seasons. Like I said before, they all basically rank the same for me, and I dislike them all equally. But if I had to order them, then 23 is the worst, then 22, then 24. Next we got seasons 15, 14, 16, then 13. The Nitrogen seasons were literally all the same, so the order really doesn't matter. But 15 was the most frustrating season, and 13 is the best season because, since it's the first season, it doesn't fully hit you how bad this era was yet when you watch it. Now we have season 12, 11, 10, 9, and 8. Seasons 8 and 9 are the best new series seasons, obviously. Season 12 is the worst one, obviously, and Season 11 and 10 basically rank the same for me, although I'd probably say Season 10 is better. This era had some good episodes, but most of them sucked. Moving on. Alright, now we're getting to the good ones. Season 17, 19, 21, 18, and 20. The Brenner seasons rank basically the same for me. They're all great. Season 20 is the best, and no one will argue with that. The rest are also pretty good. Next is the Jack in the Pack spin-off. If completed, this season would rank higher, but it's still good for what it's worth. Now it's time to dive knee-deep into the classic series. Season 6 is the worst classic season. It's too flawed for me to rank it any higher, unfortunately. Still enjoyable, though. Next, Season 3. I will never stop feeling weirdly about this season. I can appreciate it, but my biases will probably never go away. Now, Season 7. This is the season I have come to appreciate the most over time. There is a lot to like about this season, but also some stuff not to like, so that balances everything out. Now Season 1. This season is pure classic Thomas. I don't rewatch it often, but it's still very good. Now Season 4. Yeah, it's really good. I have some nitpicks, but I can totally see why it's so many people's favorite. The runner-up is Season 5. It's the peak of the Thomas & Friends franchise. There is so much to love about Season 5, and it will never not be amazing. And finally, Season 2 is my favorite. It had the best episodes overall and the most personal favorites. I love Season 2. Overall, Classic Thomas is amazing, and no one will argue with that. And with that, that is the end of my opinion on every Thomas & Friends episode. Thank you to everyone who watched this series. It was a lot of fun giving my opinions on all these episodes, and I'm so grateful that people were willing to sit through my silly videos with Fire Emblem Three Houses music in the background. Maybe I'll do more videos like these in the future, but for now, we're done. And we'll just have to wait and see what comes next. Before we end this video, be sure to check out Aura Guardian's opinion on every Pokemon video since they inspired these videos, and also be sure to check out Bryce Gum 138's video because it's basically what I did, but better. However, those videos are less suitable for kids compared to my channel, so you have been warned. But with all that being said, thank you so much for watching till the end, and best wishes until we meet again.